You're listening to the Art of Imperfect Adulting. I'm your host, Amy Stone. Here, I share stories from real people navigating the adventure that I call adulting. Are you ready? Me too. Let's do this. Well, hello friends, and welcome back. This is episode 200 of the Art of Imperfect Adulting, and today it's just you and me, your host, Amy Stone. When I started thinking about how I wanted to do this episode, because it's kind of a milestone, 200 episodes, I actually went to one of the groups of people that I hang out with quite a lot about in the world of podcasting, a group of very helpful women. I asked them for ideas. They had so many good ideas. One of them was to share what I had learned in the first 200 episodes, and that is a very good idea. But when I sat down to write it, and I wrote it, and I recorded it, and I deleted it, and I wrote it, and I edited it, and I recorded it a bunch of times, it didn't quite gel because I don't actually think that people who are tuning into this show are tuning in to learn about my business and media and podcasting. While I obsess about those things, that's not the focus of the show. That is a lot of what I've learned in 2025, and I love to talk about it. But the show is about adulting and choices and decisions and the impact of those choices that they have on our path forward. So after arguing with myself about it for a while, here's where I landed. Today, in this episode, I'm going to turn the theme of choices around on myself. I'm going to share some of the choices that I've made over these first 200 episodes. I'm going to share some of the things I did, some of the things I've stopped doing, something that I'm still searching for, and where I might be headed. And that feels like the right episode for me right now. In terms of choices and the concept of the show, I will say that this is a very in the moment kind of thing. Like, this is me thinking about what I've done very recently and how it's impacted me. Those aren't usually it's usually a little more time to reflect than the stories I share on the show, but that's what we're doing today, all right? Let's do it. Choice number one, I launched the show. I wouldn't be here talking to you if I hadn't done that. That's an obvious statement, but I also think it's worth connecting on. The choice to start something is one of the hardest things. People will say that, the first step is the hardest. And I think that that's true, but I also think that almost all of everything we do as people is iterative and repetitive. Life in its most basic form is a series of starts. But in January 2025, I pressed record and publish, and I wouldn't be here if I hadn't done that over and over and over again. Choice number two is about guests, right? In 2025, I got many, many, many more pitches than I expected. I said yes to a lot of them. The initial plan was that this was going to be a weekly interview show that aligned with a community of coaching. That would have been 45 to 48 episodes in 2025. I released 170 something episodes in 2025. This is episode 200. I've already recorded dozens more. So that's a pretty big difference from the plan. For full transparency, which is a value of mine, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh my gosh, she is Superwoman. Oh no. But truthfully, one of the reasons that I had the space and bandwidth to be able to create what I created in 2025 is that a lot of things in my life and my business in 2023, 2024 largely came to a close, a natural conclusion, including the fact that one of my kids, my youngest kiddo, headed off to college partway through the year. So I had time to use, and I used it to create this show because I love it. I love doing what I'm doing. Embedded in the choice of leaning into guest volume and is a bunch of smaller ones, right? This is the ongoing choosing of what makes a good guest. And that continues to evolve. One of the choices that I've made is to not assume that I know what people listening will enjoy. Many shows are very highly scripted, and they will remove sections of interviews if it doesn't align with their views. And I've taken a different position, which is that it's really for you to decide. The only thing I remove from the episodes, they could be much more heavily edited, and they might even be more enjoyable to listen to and watch. But I don't do that. I remove things when things go wrong, when they're confusing, when phones ring, stuff like that. And other than that, though I don't fact check, I leave it up to you, the audience, to decide how you feel about it, how you feel about the guest, how you feel about me. All of that is up to you. The process of choosing guests is also how I landed on something important to me in regard to the show and where I fit into the ecosphere of all the things that are out there, which was unexpected for me. And that is that it turns out that the stories that I most enjoy sharing are the stories of experiences of women. I didn't actually launch this to be a show for women's empowerment. In fact, when I was in the concept stage in 2024, which is not last year, but the year before, and I had this cute name, The Art of Imperfect Adulting, I was talking to people about it and trying to describe the project and the purpose. And a lot of people pushed back on the name, and they would say things like, "Don't you mean parenting or mom or step parent?" And I said, "No, I mean, the word adult I chose on purpose because of its big generalist scope, because my experience of being an adult has been that I don't always fit very neatly into those categories." And this is a theme in the things that I do, that it's really motivated by me not fitting. And so I design things where hopefully it's everybody is welcome, right? So it's more than parenthood, it's more than momhood, it's more than step parenthood, it's more than me as a runner, all of those things. And so I was a little bit surprised by my decision to do that, but that is what I'm enjoying. I do think it's important and it's worth bringing into the world, and I hope you enjoy it. Next choice, I have these numbered, but I have edited it. I'm not sure that I have the numbers in order, so I'm just going to go through them now without saying the number. Um, I chose to stick to being a generalist. I think that one of the very modern challenges in the way we find and move information around in the present time, which is 2026, is that information is grouped. One of the words we use is siloed, like the big grain silos, into very specific categories by topic, by age, by geography, by hobby, by interest. This can be super helpful when you know exactly what you're looking for. But flip it around, and when you're not exactly sure what you're looking for, it can make things very difficult to find. So I'll give you a very simple, ridiculous explanation, but you can roll it out through all sorts of things. If you know that you are looking for a teleprompter with a monitor to use for your web streaming show, you can look for that and you're going to find it right away. But if you don't have any of those words and you just put in words like screen, camera, eye contact, who knows what you're going to find, right? You may not actually find what you want. And I think that challenge shows up in a lot of ways, right? What it means for me and what I do, and the reason I've made that choice and I stick to that choice, even though it goes against a lot of advice in media and podcasting and business, is that I think that it's helpful to have a library or a collection of episodes or stories about women's experiences and how they worked through those experiences and what happened. One of the intentions of this show in creating that library of content is that hopefully it bridges and crosses over some of these or all of these demographic silos, like age and experience specifically, because I'll give a very concrete example, which is the midlife silo, right? It can be wonderful to be surrounded by people who are going through a similar experience that we're going through. But at the same time, the issues that we face as people in midlife, the best time to prepare for that is when we're younger, but we don't know that if we're not exposed to those stories. See what I'm saying? So that's one of the reasons that I'm motivated for that. Next choice might be 4, might be some other number if I numbered incorrectly. I tried to choose to stop doing things when I discovered that they weren't working, right? So this show initially launched simultaneously. The group actually might have come a little bit before, but I launched a group coaching program, and it was validated quickly. There were people that signed up at the beginning, but truthfully, it didn't catch on. It was a lot of work. It wasn't selling, and I quickly learned that actually I didn't love it. And so about 3/4 of the way through the year, I closed it down, which I think that's a fine decision. It has left me with a pretty direct question, which is, okay, what am I doing? what am I doing and where's the revenue going to come from? But I said that I wasn't going to bore you with the big theme of behind the scenes business stuff, and I won't. But one of the reasons I just go ahead and share stuff like this is that um, I'm not embarrassed by admitting when things don't work. For me, transparency is something that is a core value of mine, is the words we use. It's something that I believe in, I really appreciate in other people. This is just me showing up as an example of my values. I'm not embarrassed to say that I try something and it doesn't work. There's no way for me to know if something is going to work if I don't try it. And there are plenty of people in podcasting, in YouTubing, in creator spaces, online business, who will offer to mentor you and sell you advisory, coaching, mentorship, business services, but they don't always show you as clearly as they maybe could their actual experience and success about what they do. And I do believe that this is an issue. It's something I can't fix. It's not my job to police it for other people. All I can do and all I want to do is I can show up as my slightly awkward, non-embarrassed, transparent self. I can't actually do anything else. So one of the things I'll throw here in the middle is that as a transparent person, right, I share what doesn't work for me. This doesn't always make me popular in small circles of closed industry, right? An industry that is cliquey and small and built on like a close friend network where they are all referring business to each other. That is not always a place that appreciates me coming in and saying, "Oh, you know what? That wasn't what I thought it was going to be," because that doesn't benefit them. The business ecosystem of audio first podcasting is so small that I wouldn't even actually call it an industry, to be honest. Like it's a subset of broadcasting and media. But the same names and vendors and companies come up over and over again, and they have for over a decade. And I actually think that this can be harmful and potentially exploitative for new podcasters. But it doesn't do me any favors that I exile myself from the circle, but it's who I am, and it's who I've always been, and so I live there. Next choice is to not build a team, at least not yet. I have systematized all the things I do, and a lot of the pieces of what I do are actually very ready to hand off to somebody else so that I'm not doing them all myself. I have been saying that I was going to add team since very early in this process, and I have hired contractors to do things to move things along wherever I could. But I made the deliberate decision not to hire or outsource at a larger level or scale because I didn't have a clear picture of the business model that I was building. And I didn't have that momentum of cash flow that would make that sustainable. This has felt a little bit uncomfortable sometimes because there's a lot of pressure in the creator space to buy services, hire vendors, hire VAs, all of those things. But I do think that at least so far it's been the right call. You might be surprised to know that I do almost all of the production of this show by myself, which I'm surprised by it too. All right, next choice is that I have been looking for my people. And I am going to be honest, I haven't found my Goldilocks group yet. So this is one that I might spend a little more time on, and I hope it doesn't bore you. But it's most related to where my current efforts and maybe my immediate future efforts are going to be. I am a person who is, right now for me, I deeply crave connection with other creative people. I have been a creative person. The words for this change, like, so I pushed back probably 2 decades ago, people started calling me an artist. And that didn't feel like it fit because I actually flunked out of an art program like in high school, late high school. And that's why my academics are in journalism. So I struggle with that word. Maker, creator, podcaster, photographer. There's a lot of words that go around, but I am, for my life, I am a person who has a creative part of the personality, whether that shows up in making this show or in planning a dinner or an event. This is a part of who I am, and I really, really love having a network and connection with other people who are working on their own creative projects. So making podcasts, writing newsletters, building YouTube shows, I love that. I would love to know more people who are working on growing their craft with that, the technique, the tools. I think there's a really special part of the creator experience when you can find those nooks and crannies of people who are doing similar things. And I'm also going to admit that I learned during lockdown that I am not an introvert. I'm an extrovert. For me to thrive, one of the things that I really, really need is in-person connection with people. I value virtual for its flexibility and its scalability. I love it. I love being able to talk to and connect with people around the world on different time zones. I had the most amazing conversation just before recording this with someone who's in Italy. I mean, that's fantastic. I love every bit of it. But I do also love in person. And I do think that for me, the connections and the things that I can do with people in person are on a different level than in a Zoom room. So I have been looking for this and I feel like I've really worked hard. I started joining groups for this kind of connection, looking for this kind of connection in 2023 and 2024. And when I sat down and made a list of all the things I'd tried to put together in this episode, I counted 12 groups, but I think it's closer to 15 because every time I look at it, I add another one or two. There was a draft of this episode where I was going to list out every single one and give you a feedback, but I think that would be really boring. But seriously, message me if you want all the details. The reason I'm talking about it is even though I leaned hard into this to the best of my ability, I continue to lean into this, is that the truth is I haven't found my unicorn Goldilocks group or association that is, what I'm exactly looking for. I love all the groups that I'm a part of. If you're listening to this and you're a friend of mine and I'm in your group, it doesn't mean I don't love your group. It just means that I'm still looking for more. Maybe I'm hard to please. I am a woman in an industry that is factually still very dominated by men. I am an omni-channel creator, which means I distribute in a variety of ways. And I happen to have the opinion that I think that's the future of media for the foreseeable future. And that means I don't always fit in platform-specific groups. My business is content and creating. I was asked in a seminar the other day, are you a creator or are you a business? And I was like, I don't like these choices. C, all of the above. I'm not a brand influencer, although I have done that and I do brand deals. And I'm not a retired celebrity. So, I'm not part of that club. This has become a side project of mine. I'm in the middle of searching out and having conversations with other women and female creators about what they think community support, mentorship could look like or what they're looking for at a variety of stages, beginners, advanced, all of the things where I am in the middle, so on and so forth. I actually have this great long list of things that I think I want in a group, directory, education that's about craft and not vendor pitches, conversation, insights, and cheerleaders. It's a little bit of a joke, but creator first with people who are in the process of creating infrastructure that is designed to actually offer opportunities and chances to increase visibility and reach, not just an echo chamber or supporting a person who's at the top of the pyramid. And also I'm looking for in-person stuff. So you can see that it's not clearly defined yet, but also with the emphasis of supporting and empowering women creators, only because the reality is that the industry, whether you're looking at YouTube, broadcasting, newsletter writing, or business, is still really dominated by men. And so that's where we are. Okay, so next choice might be 6, maybe not. I have chosen to embrace video and YouTube. This is a whole thing in the podcasting space. I've struggled with whether or not to even use the word podcast because people argue about it. In fact, as I record this, there's a very recent new announcement from Apple that is related to their their video plan. And that has put this into like a very top of the conversation. Some people, some creators are very committed to what they are considering, they're calling audio first or audio only. And I just want to just go super nerdy for a second because it bugs me, the semantics of this. Talking is not synonymous with audio. Audio is much bigger than that. Like, so talk is one kind of audio, but it can be music, it can be sound effects, it can be a million other things. So a talking head podcast is not just audio. Anyway, drives me bananas when people say that, but I'm not the audio podcast police, so whatever. People are welcome to lean into whatever part of the craft and production that resonates with them, and I encourage them. For me, I have chosen to examine the distribution tools, production methods, and all the things that feel like they offer me the best chance for growth. I'm not a person who's particularly interested in chasing the dragon of algorithmic trends, but right now, this feels to me like omni-channel creation, which means that I'm showing up in audio podcast players, also video channels, and even print in the form of newsletters. And generally speaking, I'm a pretty big fan of YouTube at the moment, although there was a YouTube outage. So, we'll see. We'll see. Next choice, I choose to openly talk and strategize on the topic of money and revenue. And here's something I want to say out loud about money. I'm a little bit of a weirdo and I don't mind talking about money. I think that has its roots in the fact that I grew up with a parent who was a freelancer, so we talked about it a lot. But this connects to something bigger that I do a significant amount of thinking when it comes to female creators and just creators in general. I think that sometimes we really do give and get a pretty bad piece of advice which is that for creators and small business owners, we sometimes hear or tell them not to worry about money or revenue in the beginning. I have actually heard people write or say that if making money is your reason for starting a podcast or a show, just don't do it, just don't bother. And I genuinely disagree with that as a piece of advice. It is very unlikely for most people who start projects that they will hit a home run and become a mainstream, big name show. Yeah, the obstacles are all there. That's true. But I also know about 75 case studies of people who started profitable businesses based on research about whether or not that was a profitable idea. They did not have any passion about it. They just found an idea that had a gap in the marketplace and they built it, right? One of these is that years ago I talked to a pair of guys who had launched a subscription service, like a subscription box service that you would pay, and they would send you out new cute undies every month. And it was a very profitable business, and it was a little bit off the beaten path, but it's a real thing. And they did it not because they had any passion about it, but when I asked them, they were like, yeah, we looked at the marketplace, we saw that people wanted this. It grew quickly because there was demand and the resources and things were there. They just were very analytical about it. And what they were passionate about was about growing a profitable business, not about the product they were selling. So the other part of this, less dramatically, is that I think that if a project is not sustainable, you're more likely to quit. And this is not a moral failure, it's just reality. So like learning about all the pieces that it comes in are going to be required to do something is just like, putting together furniture from IKEA. Do you have all the parts? Do you have all the tools? And if you don't, you're likely to hit a stumbling block that you don't continue, or it's less fun. If you have something where you're paying for it, then, there is a conversation that happens in most people's mind. Is it worth it? And what makes it worth it can be different to everybody. But when you survey people with gym memberships about why they leave, the results are almost always because I was paying for it and I wasn't getting what I needed from it because I wasn't going, right? Sustainability for a creative project, unless it's something that's purely driven by, I want to learn how to create it, I want to end up with the product. I'm knitting a blanket and I want the blanket. I'm making a baby blanket for my niece or nephew, whatever that is. Outside of, I'm painting because it's inside me, I need to get it out. Whatever's outside of that, sustainability of a creative project, often comes down to whether or not it pays for itself or even makes a profit. And the time to think about that, in my opinion, and it has been my choice for me, is the entire time, and specifically from the planning phase and then through every decision you make, right? And there's no right or wrong way to do that, right? You're going to do the things you enjoy a little while longer. I love creating this podcast, this streaming show. I enjoy the tech, I enjoy the process, I enjoy the conversation. So I continue to do it. But the cost involved is definitely something that's always there, right? If you do things that aren't joyous or euphoric, but you're well compensated, you're more likely to keep doing them for at least a little while longer. We all know people who have jobs where they're well paid. They don't love what they're doing. They do it because it made the deal for the compensation. I don't love emptying the dishwasher. I like having an empty dishwasher to put dirty dishes in. But here's the thing. If somebody showed up and was like, hey, $100 to empty the dishwasher, I'm more likely to do it and sign up to come back and do it again. Totally unrelated tangent. My dad, from back in the days of Vietnam when he was in the military, had this hilarious story that I grew up hearing. I'm undoubtedly going to tell it wrong, right? One of the jobs that they ended up doing was garbage duty or kitchen garbage duty. Anyway, apparently the way my dad told it was very unpopular because it was stinky, right? And one of his buddies had like a very, very damaged sense of smell, which now as an adult and having lived through the whole COVID loss of scent thing, I think about this in a different way because it probably messed up how we felt about food. But anyway, not the point. This guy that was my friend, my dad's friend, would swap with people for money and all kind of things because nobody wanted to do the stinky duty and he didn't mind. Didn't bother him. So I probably have some of the details wrong in that story, but it feels a little bit related to me. Like, so revenue is related to both sustainability and also in a capitalist situation, revenue and money connects directly to empowerment, which is the reason that I bring it up. I won't bore you with all the things there that I'm thinking about on that line, but I am thinking about a lot. I keep my eyes open and I'm just not pretending that the question doesn't exist. So I don't think that does anybody any favors. All right, next thing. I'm investing in my production. If you've watched many of my videos, solo or otherwise, you may notice that rarely am I looking at the camera directly. And hopefully today you'll see I'm doing a better job at that. That's because I finally have added a teleprompter. Look at me. It's so great. All right. So it's like a thing with me. Even when I take selfies, I'm looking in the wrong spot. So I'm upgrading a variety of the things that I'm doing to increase the quality. And there's a lot of things that led to that. One, hilariously, is that one of the little gadgets that I used to create the show stopped doing part of the things that I use it for. And that, in just a wild sequence of events, that has created a cascade of upgrades. Very much like when you spot paint a room, like you take a little spot paint and then you realize, oh, got to paint the whole wall. Then you're like, oh my God, I got to paint the whole room. Oh my gosh. Look at that. The whole house needs painted. Before you know it, you're down to the studs in a full renovation. Not that that's ever happened to me. What's interesting about this, maybe a little bit funny, is that if you are watching this on YouTube, you will see this new version of what the solo version of the show looks like before there are other things. In fact, the problem is going to show up in the episodes that come out right after this, just because of the way the production schedule lines up. There were a bunch of things. I had a Wi-Fi thing that got glitchy that I had to upgrade. A tool broke, and it just has become an opportunity for me to do all of these things. One of the things that's really funny about that is that this is a part of the whole thing with podcasting and YouTubing that I love. I really enjoy the technology and playing with the new stuff. I was so excited to open the box of the teleprompter, new cameras, all of those things, cables, all the stuff. I love that. I also love the idea of creating a new set, but I had been resistant to do it. Because I was telling myself it was just a strategic business decision, but I think I was playing mind games with myself. This probably is a mindset issue, so I'm working on that, to be honest. That's one of the things I am choosing to work on that. That's where I am. That brings us, I think those are the choices that I've made in the past 200 episodes, right up to the ones I'm making right now. You're seeing that here. A handful of very real choices. Some things that I've figured out, a few things still in progress, some things that I'm still searching for. If any of this resonates with you, if it hits a little, that's me. If you happen to be a creator who listened to me talk about the community that I'm looking for, and you have that, or you think I should look somewhere else, or you just want to talk to me about it, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. I'm working on that right now, and I will probably still be when this episode is released. If you want more detail about behind the scenes and how I'm building what I'm building and what I'm figuring out, also give me a shout out for that, because I'd love to know if that's something you're more interested in learning about. And for anybody who is just listening to this for the first time, or you've been here since the very beginning of these 200 episodes, if you are one of the lovely people who supports me in all the projects that I've done over, since the beginning of time, as a listener, a guest, a collaborator, thank you. Thank you very, very much. It means a lot, and I appreciate that you're here with me on this journey. That's it. This is me, Amy Stone, signing off. Thank you for listening today. I hope that you enjoy the show, and before I go, I want to encourage you to become a bigger part of the conversation. Obviously, subscribe wherever you're listening to the show. Listen to more episodes. That'd be great. Again, please write a review and tell your friends about the show. That truly is a great help for getting the show in front of new people. Okay, but more fun for you yourself, head over to imperfectadulting.com and join the email community. You'll get some free stuff right away, and that way you'll begin to get the emails about the podcast. This includes the links for the special offers from the guests, and it's the only way to get that. Also, if you aren't in the mood to listen, I actually include an article directly in those emails. Whee! Now, if you love this and you crave more time with me, Amy, as a coach, a mentor, or just adultier adult, numero uno, check out The Village. If you have a story you want to share with the listeners, I'd love to hear from you. I have an open application. Just let me know you want it. And that's a wrap for today. Until next time, remember, the journey is the destination. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that, not me. Well, until just now, I did just say it. But what I want you to hear today is that if your adulting journey isn't going the way you expected, that may not mean that you're lost. It may just mean that you're on your way. This is Amy Stone, signing off. The Imperfect Adulting podcast is created and produced by Amy Stone and Amy Says So. Anything expressed on this show is offered as entertainment, and the views of the guests may not always represent the ideas and viewpoints of the host. That's me. Amy does not intend or hold herself out to provide professional advice or recommendations of any kind. In the end, you and you alone need to make those kinds of decisions based on your personal and individual situation, needs, circumstances, and comfort level.